Tonight, is the rebel dead? A lot of people want that. I want it to live, but I need to know that you stand with the rebel. It's August 22nd, and you're watching the Ezra Levant Show.
Why should others go to jail when you're the biggest carbon consumer I know?
There's 8,500 customers here, and you won't give them an answer.
You come here once a year with a sign, and you feel morally superior.
The only thing I have to say to the government about why I publish it is because it's my bloody right to do so.
A lot of people want the rebel to die, and this seems to be their moment. They're all piling on. The media says we're dead already. Here's Canada's biggest newspaper, the Toronto Star. Is this the beginning of the end for Canada's rebel media? Their answer is, of course. But they've said that since the day we were born. They hated the Sun News Network too. It's really just been 30 journalists, but when they all have newspapers or TV stations or websites, it can sound like the whole world is screaming at you. I mean, look at this one. It's a 6-page story in the National Post. Demonic red pictures of me right on the front page. They really want the rebel to die. I think some of them might even want me personally to die. So what should we do? Should I quit? It was pretty bad for a moment there. It felt like a hurricane. I felt like just hiding from it all. But then I immediately thought, what about our staff? They're counting on me. What about the thousands of people who put their trust in us, the trust in me? What about the causes we all believe in together? I'm not going to let you down. I'm not hiding or quitting or going away. Look, some people have quit us. Brian Lilly noisily announced he won't do any more freelance videos for us because he doesn't like our ideas anymore, something he never mentioned to us. Sun columnists have been ordered by their editors not to come on our shows anymore either. Then troubles just piled on. As you know, we had a rebel cruise planned for November like we did last year, but Norwegian Cruise Line just ripped up all of our tickets. No warning, no explanation, obviously because we are too conservative. And for the past 4 days, our website was unavailable in most of the world when a DNS provider, that's part of the internet, would no longer allow a partner to host our domain on 24 hours notice with no explanation. That's like a phone company taking away your long-time phone number on a day's notice. It took us 4 days to recover from that. So what caused all of this? It looks like the whole world hates us. Even so-called conservative politicians like Andrew Scheer are blacklisting us too. So what did we do wrong? What did I do wrong? Let me give you a couple minutes of background. It started when our reporter, Faith Goldie, went to Charlottesville, Virginia. The alt-right and the alt-left had dueling protests. Faith was standing near the leftists when an alt-right extremist rammed his car into them, killing one person. Faith caught it all on tape. It was an act of terrorism, and it immediately transformed the nature of the alt-right from peaceful cranks to a violent danger. Faith shouldn't have even gone to Charlottesville. I asked her not to go, even as a reporter. The alt-right isn't who we are at the Rebel. They're racist, and their torchlit march was really nothing more than a Ku Klux Klan rally. Last Monday, I wrote a staff memo clarifying our position on the alt-right. We've never been alt-right. We're against it. They're white supremacists and anti-Semites. We're not. I'm Jewish, obviously. Our staff is multiracial. The alt-right isn't conservative, by the way. They're economic socialists, and they don't believe in individual merit. They believe in group rights based on race. That's pretty much the opposite of everything we've ever said and done. But the media had their talking point. Faith was in Charlottesville, so that meant we were Nazis. So maybe my colleague Jay Feza is now a white supremacist, or as the CBC keeps saying, our pro-Israel, pro-Jewish editorial position is now anti-Semitic.
It is an organization which has a clear point of view that is at times anti-Semitic and racist. So,
no, we're not racist. That's just what the left always calls conservatives. But then Faith came to me and told me that when she was down there, she had appeared on an alt-right podcast called The Daily Stormer, which is a white supremacist show. I couldn't believe it. I love Faith. I know she doesn't have a racist bone in her body. She's one of the most pro-Jewish people I know. But it was just too much, and I had to fire her. That was the low point of the week for me. But then it got worse. 2 disgruntled former rebel staffers in the UK did what they had threatened in private to do to me if we fired them. They had tried to extort a massive severance payment from me, and they threatened to smear the rebel and our UK star, Tommy Robinson, unless we paid them hush money. I flew to meet with them to tell them I wouldn't but they actually secretly recorded our conversation and edited clips of it, making it look really bad. What a way to end the week. Inaccessible to half the internet, banned from our cruise. On cue, Trudeau's Liberals started bashing the Rebel in fundraising letters. Then so did Rachel Notley's NDP. Of course they did. They hate how we cover them, and they wanted to stick the knife in us to finish us off. They know we're not Nazis. This was about stopping our criticism about the things we always talk about, from Omar Khadr to carbon taxes. So here we are. We're back up on the whole internet now. We've lost about 2% of our YouTube subscribers, mainly people who were sad or angry that we fired Faith. And we lost about 2% of our premium subscribers to our paywall shows, mainly because they couldn't find us on the internet for 4 days. So we're still alive. But 30 screaming journalists and the Liberals and the NDP want us dead. I won't lie to you, I was very sad last week. Not sad that the mainstream media hates me. I'm used to that. I was sad about Faith's bad judgment. I was sad that we were being falsely swept up in the censorship war against white supremacists. Sad that we hadn't heard a supportive word out of any of Canada's so-called free speech groups or journalists. But mainly I was sad because I felt I'd let everybody down. Maybe by not being firm enough with Faith in advance. Maybe by engaging with those 2 disgruntled UK employees and not realizing that they would obviously record anything I said to them and add that to their blackmail. I felt like I had let down our staff, who were probably embarrassed by me. And I felt like I had let down our hundreds of thousands of viewers and supporters. And I have. I have let you down, and I'm here to apologize, to tell you what I did wrong, to take responsibility and to tell you what I want to do about it. But also to tell you that it's actually, in the end, it's actually up to you. Because they really do want to kill the Rebel. And we really are in jeopardy. So I'm asking you to stand with the Rebel. I can't do this on my own. And I need to know I won't be on my own. Frankly, my staff needs to know that even more than I do. We need to know. So that's the first thing I'd ask you to do. If you want us to live, if you want us to keep going, please tell me. And tell my staff. Go to standwiththerebel.com and just say, we stand with the Rebel. I want to show my team that there may be 30 screaming leftist journalists out there, but there are 30,000 quiet allies who are standing with us even after our bumpy week. Please do that. I really need to show our team that we're not alone here. Okay, now I want to tell you my plan to fix things. And if you agree with that plan, then I'm going to ask you to help. I think this time it really is do or die. We're going to make some changes around here. Not because 30 journalists hate us, but because we need to fix a few things if we're going to take the Rebel to the next level. First of all, I am part of the problem. Not in a malicious way, not in the way the media says. I'm the problem because I just can't run the whole company. Maybe I could have when we were just 8 people in my living room, but not now with 45 people in 4 countries. I can't do my TV show and all our campaigns and also run the company and also expand the company. It's too much. I started to let things fall through my fingers. I have to focus. I need help. So that's the first part of my plan, to bring in more management. We need help to run the business side of the business so I can do what I'm good at, journalism and activism. So today we retained a professional corporate recruiter to find another manager so I'm not stretched so thin, so I'm not missing things or going off half-cocked. Second, when we were small, I used to watch every single video before we put it online. But then I got really busy. We all did around here. We grew so fast from 8 people to nearly 50. And then we started doing these TV-length shows. I literally don't have time to watch everything we do anymore. And I think that got us into some problems. We've done more than 6,500 videos, hundreds of full-length shows. And they're great. But even if 1% of them were wrong editorially, we're going in the wrong direction. That could embarrass us, and I think it has. I think we need more oversight, not more censorship, just to make sure we're really being on brand with what we believe, what we stand for. We need what's called a managing editor, someone who does nothing but check and double check that our rambunctious reporters are not going off target, to stay on top of them with more than just an occasional email. I think that would have probably headed off the problem with my friend Faith. We've lost Faith and some other freelancers. And I should tell you that Gavin McInnes is leaving us at the end of the month. That's been in the works for a while. So this gives us a real chance to reboot with a new team, new talent, new journalists, to really prove that we've gone back to our roots journalistically, not to prove anything to our haters. I promise you they will hate our new reporters as much as they hated our old ones, but to prove to you, our viewers and supporters, that we haven't lost it. Doing the stuff we love, telling the other side of the story, on Omar Khadr, on the United Nations, doing real accountability stories on Justin Trudeau and Kathleen Wynne and Rachel Notley, not being afraid to talk candidly about political Islam, about censorship on the internet, not being afraid to challenge environmentalist lobby groups and their foreign funders, standing up for Christians, whether it's about the genocide in Iraq or anti-Christian bigotry at home, fighting political correctness on campus, telling the other side of the story. Can you imagine what the media and political landscape would be like in Canada if the Rebel didn't exist? It was bad enough when the Sun News Network shut down, but today, 2.5 years later, the CBC is even bigger. The National Post has gone to the left and has totally changed their views on political Islam. They're getting ready for their newspaper bailout from Justin Trudeau, I guess. Imagine if the Rebel were gone. No thanks. I've made mistakes. We're going to fix them. Hiring an additional manager, hiring an additional editor. We're going to be better than ever, and we're going to announce new journalists and new TV shows in the months ahead. And we're going to continue to do it without taking a dollar from the government like the other guys do. We're going to do it the same way we always built this company, through your support, through crowdfunding. Some people have asked me to disclose more about our crowdfunding. We talk about it almost every day at The Rebel. We show where the money goes, whether it's a billboard truck, like this one in Montreal, remember that? Or hiring a lawyer, fighting for justice for Chelsea in the UK. But I thought, you know what, why not? We're not in trouble for any real reason this week. Our political enemies hate us, internet censors hate us, and a lot of opportunists are piling on. But I thought, why not? I'm extremely proud of our crowdfunding, and later in the show, I will take you through our crowdfunding accounting and publish the numbers to our website at therebel.media/trust. You can find that on our website. But first, I need to know you're with us. I need you to go to standwiththerebel.com and tell me you still believe in me. If you don't, no problem. Message received. But I hope you do. I need to know it, and so does my staff. I need 30,000 people to tell me they stand with me and my team, and then I need your help to pay for this new plan, to live, to thrive, to grow, to hire new journalists, and more importantly, new managers to keep us on course. I'm proud to ask for help this way, rather than by going to Trudeau for a bailout like Post Media is doing, like the CBC always says. No, we are Canada's last best chance at having any sort of independent conservative media, any sort of opposition to Trudeau and Notley and Wynne and all the think-alikes and busybodies and official people. I am a flawed leader who has made mistakes, but as long as you stand with me, I will stand. Please go to standwiththerebel.com and prove to my staff that you still believe in us. And then help me pay for this plan to come back stronger than ever. Stay with us. After the break, I'll introduce you to our managing producer, Hannah Vanderkooy, and we'll talk about the journalists we plan to hire. Well, I remember how it felt when the Sun News Network shut down, the sense of loss for an amazing project. But I also remember the glee that I heard, not just from our political opponents like Justin Trudeau, who knew he wouldn't have to face the Sun News Network on the campaign trail, but from rival journalists who didn't believe in debate, who wanted to silence us. I put it to you that all of those things are much worse now, 2.5 years later, and if God forbid the Rebel were to go under, well, I think the media is more homogenous than ever. The National Post has totally gone to the center. They're looking for their bailout. And where are the real opponents to Justin Trudeau? In my view, I think all the conservatives are trying to hug the center. I want to introduce you to an old friend of mine, and we met at the Sun News Network, and she came to help start the Rebel. She's our managing producer, Hannah Vanderkooy. Hannah, great to see you.
See you every day.
I see you every day, but I mean, you did do some on-air work in the early days of the Rebel, but then we got so busy and we grew so fast. You've really charted the course for all the many contributors we've had over the years. What is the most important thing about what the Rebel does editorially?
Well, we hold the government to account, and we talk about stories that not even the conservative government wants to talk about. We led the charge on M103. We're leading the charge right now on all the refugees illegally crossing the border. So if we go away, who's going to be talking about that? Yeah. You'll recall that Michelle Rempel, yes, she did well with the Yazidi refugees, but where was she talking about the Christian refugees?
Yeah.
Who's going to talk about that?
And she never wants to criticize Islamic immigration because she doesn't want to be called a meanie. And all the issues that ordinary conservative Canadians care about, the conservative politician, I mean, Patrick Brown is awful. He's endorsed the carbon tax. It's amazing to watch these conservative politicians stick the knife in us. And I don't take it personally. This isn't a personal, I don't care. I mean, I interview the odd politician. That's not how I do my work. It's a sign of how enormous the magnetic pull towards the left is. Mm-hmm. If the CBC is more than half the journalism in the country, if the National Post is oozing left, when Andrew Scheer and Patrick Brown and even Jason Kenney and Brian Jean feel the need to suck up to the CBC, what would it be like if the Rebel wasn't here? Let me ask you that. What would it have been like on some of these core issues? Like, you mentioned M103. I don't think anyone would have had the courage to talk about that without our rally and our news coverage.
No, and it would have been a slow creep because no one would talk about it. No one would touch those issues. They're too hot, they're too contentious, even for our Conservative Party. As you say, the Conservative Party across the country, they're answering to the media. Who's answering to their voters, to the real Conservatives? And I hope that we can be their voice.
Let me switch gears to Alberta, one of the most important stories for us over the last 2 years. I'm from Alberta originally. Our Sheila Gunn-Reid has single-handedly broken more stories about the NDP than the rest of the press gallery combined because they're not trying. Because if they criticize the NDP, they won't get hired on as an NDP spin doctor when they are downsized. I'm not kidding. Journalist after journalist from the CBC, from the Post-Media newspapers, from radio, when they're let go in the massive layoffs in the industry, they immediately go to work for Rachel Notley. So it's like they're working on their resumes when they're writing, oh, and Rachel Notley did this. Like, none of them have followed up on Sheila's blockbuster story that Rachel Notley canceled all the water bomber contracts just days before the wildfire. I think that we have been the only opposition in Alberta of any note. Maybe the United Conservative Party will change that, but I don't think it's an overstatement to say that we are the #1 pain in the neck to Rachel Notley, which is why she sent the sheriff after Sheila.
Absolutely, and I still see calls for, I mean, I remember when that was in the news and not everyone understood the Alberta press gallery, but they said, well, why should the Rebel go in? Like, it was incredible. The media they don't want us around. It's been made abundantly clear.
Yeah, I mean, one more example of journalism that just would not happen. When we sent Sheila, who's great, and she knows the oil patch very well, we sent her to Morocco to cover the United Nations. They tried to block her because they let thousands of other journalists in. She was like the only critic, the only skeptic who was there. Let me switch gears though. We're talking about fond memories here. But today is also the day where we have to say, all right, we've lost Faith Goldie, who was a real key journalist for us. Our friend Gavin McInnes is leaving at the end of the month. Brian Lilly did some freelance work, he's gone. A couple of other freelancers who work for Post Media, they're banned from working with. So we've got some gaps to fill. That's sad in a way because I like those names, but it's actually a pretty neat opportunity to bring forth a new team to follow these basic journalistic precepts, tell the other side of the story and be fearless. Tell me about some of your thinking. You're the boss for hiring, no pressure. Yeah. What kind of people, what kind of shows, what kind of ideas are you thinking about?
Well, I think we have a void with Gavin leaving, talking about U.S. politics and issues. That's big right now, obviously, with Trump as president. But we also have a void here in Canada talking about federal government issues. But we're also expanding, as we very excitedly talk about Australia and the UK, and those are such important places because the UK, it doesn't have free speech. And so we need to go in there and we need to sort of challenge that and push that boundary carefully. And Australia is going down the same path, and so it's interesting because Canada, UK, and Australia, they all have these similarities, these similar themes, and we want to grow there as well because I think it's just as important. But we want a range of voices as well. I think, you know, the libertarian voice is a very important one. We have a lot of different ideas, and we're going to make a lot of announcements soon about new shows that we're working on. I can't announce them quite yet, but yeah, we're looking for some people, and we're going to expand for sure.
Yeah, I was pitching a show to someone, I won't say their name until we sign the deal. It's a debate show. And really, when was the last time we had a debate in Canada? I watch those CBC panels like once a year when I have to. They're not debates. They're four people saying the same thing. The Liberal is in the center. The Red Tory says, yes, I agree. And the NDP says, I agree, but more. And the CBC, like, it's total unanimity. I think there's no debate left on campus anymore, no debate on so-called pundits panels. You're not allowed to talk about the key issues of the day. If you talk about Islam, you're a racist. Even if you're a Muslim, Muslim yourself. Yeah. Salim Mansour, Raheel Raza, some of our favorite people are called racist. They're Muslim themselves because white liberals say you can't talk about that. So I want to have some debates here. I want to have some funny people. I want to have young people. We've done a great job over the last 2 years, if I may say so, in finding talent that no one else really knew about. And I think we can do that again. I think this is a country that there's a disconnect between the official people and normal people. I mean, Sheila, to me, is the perfect example of that. My view is get new talent, but we need a managing editor. Tell our viewers who might not know what that means, what a managing editor, you're the VP and our managing producer, so you're like the head of all content. What would a managing editor do to make sure we don't get into a pickle like Faith did in Charlottesville, or let's say 1 in 100 of our videos that goes up and that makes me say, what would a managing editor do?
Oh, they would scrutinize every single script, every single pitch, make sure that it's not only got the right tone, but also the right facts. We try to double check as much as we can, but as you say, you know, we're wearing 3 different hats. So we need one person that this is their only hat, this is their job, to keep everyone in line and to make sure that we know, they know, when someone's going to a protest and they are giving a firm no. Yeah.
You were there that day when we started the Rebel in my living room. 8 of us, it was sort of crazy. Here we are 2.5 years later, more than 800,000 YouTube subscribers, millions of views a month. I think we've checked a lot of the boxes that we could only dream of, but I don't think we grew the management side fast enough. Do you think we can pull out of this? Part of me thinks it's just been a media fake crisis, but part of it was real, and I want to acknowledge that. Are you optimistic that we can get to the next level here?
Yeah, I think we can get out of this, but more importantly, as you're saying, we can learn from this. And I think that's exactly the points that you're making, that let's just not move on, but let's say, okay, what are our shortcomings, and let's fix that. Yeah. And let's be better than ever.
Yeah, I think so too. Hannah, I'm so proud of the journalistic work you've done behind the scenes. We've got an amazing team, and it's the behind the scenes people I felt the saddest about, that they had to feel the negativity that was really focused on me and to an extent Faith. So thank you for standing with us. You stand with the Rebel. Folks, if you stand with the Rebel, this is the time to let us know, because they want to kill us. Don't let them kill us. We have too much work to do. We got to tell the other side of the story. We got to be fearless. Those have always been our motto. We're going to take a short break. I want you to go to standwiththerebel.com and come right back, because next we're going to talk to another behind-the-scenes guy. You might be getting emails from him from time to time. His name is Eitan Gilboard, and we're going to answer a question that's being put to us. Crowdfunding, how do you do it? Where does the money go? Can you give us some disclosure? Oh yeah, here comes the disclosure. That's next on The Rebel. Welcome back. Well, there was one thing that happened last week, and it went to everyone piling on. And that was that 2 of our former UK staff, they only worked for us for 3 or 4 months, And we discovered little things. They were stealing money here and there and making strange demands, and we knew it wasn't working, so we fired them. Sorry, it happens sometimes in business. But then they started making extortion demands, and I flew out to meet them and say there's no way we're paying, and obviously they recorded me, took my words out of context when I said I'm not paying you hush money. Well, they made it look like I was the one who suggested it. They did an extortion video that they rolled out last week right in the middle of things. I wish I knew a little bit more about these guys before I hired them. I wish, for example, our background check had picked up this video about Kalen Robertson. And you can actually see George John in there too, though he's sort of in disguise. Take a look.
When I was younger, and I used to just post regular things, I used to look up to other people who were sort of at the top of this little social hierarchy. There just seemed to be this golden community of people on the internet who had this sort of fame, and I really wanted to be a part of it.
And what better way to get thousands of followers on Facebook than to borrow thousands of pounds so that you can star in your very own online series?
The way that I paid for all of the hotels and all the luxury lifestyle stuff was it was just through other people's money, through credit card companies and loans and payday loans and stuff like that.
Just so we're clear, exactly how much did you blow getting famous on Facebook?
Now I'm in £5,000 debt. £5,000 isn't really that much anyway.
Just so you know, in case you didn't realize it, that was a little reality show about this scammer named Kalen Robertson, and we hired him, and my fault for that, and my fault for going to try and deal with him. My point is, this same guy, Kalen Robertson, then did a video claiming that we were the scammers, when in fact it was just because we didn't pay him. I don't know if you've seen it, but a lot of people have been asking me about this video by Kalen last week.
Now, do you remember that Israel trip that Rebel crowdfunded for? The one that took place at the same time that Lauren Southern went independent? It's not a coincidence. It actually turns out that Rebel crowdfunded more than enough money to cover the costs of that trip, and yet they still demanded she make a video asking for more. Of course, Lauren refused, and after raising concerns about the ethics of lying for the money that they didn't need, she was unceremoniously fired and threatened with legal action if she ever spoke out about it. That's right, she didn't leave, she was fired.
Now, of course, Kalen and George were only with us for a few months. They never saw any of our accounting. They weren't briefed on our finances whatsoever. They were just doing video work in the UK. So it's laughable, it's gossip, it's slander, it's the extortion. But enough people said, well, Ezra, will you release your crowdfunding statistics? I mean, we're a private company here at the Rebel, but we do ask for public support for our campaigns, whether it's to go on a trip somewhere to cover journalism, whether it's a capital campaign like to build our app. Sometimes we raise funds for genuine charities like to rebuild Fort McMurray. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what? Why don't we just do it? Why don't we just release our accounting? Because I'm actually extremely proud of it. And it took this crisis to make me think, well, yeah, why am I keeping it a secret? And so we've decided to do it. And on our website, you can go to therebel.media/trust and see the accounting for our crowdfunding. And joining me now in studio is someone whose name you might know by emails he sends out every week, my friend Eitan Gilbour. You are in charge of crowdfunding for the Rebel.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure doing it, and happy to stand with the crowdfunding that we do.
Yeah, I mean, some people say, oh, you ask your viewers for money. Yeah, we're not the CBC. We don't take it from their taxes by force. No one has to give to our crowdfunding campaigns. They do it because they like it. I'm very proud of it. And obviously, if people give us their email, we're going to email them. And if we ask for money, they don't have to give. The idea that crowdfunding is somehow bad is sort of like opposite land to me. Government money for media is bad. And I think even taking money from like a Rogers or a Shaw that is an extremely regulated super corporation, I don't think those journalists are free. Tell me how you deal with, or I want to get into the crowdfunding in just a second because it's extremely exciting. We're going to release it. But on a given basis, you probably talk to 20, 30, 40 of our donors and subscribers. What's that like?
I mean, our donors are great people, patriots, and can't thank them enough for their support. But they're just people who want to hear the other side of the story, who just want to support us in our mission to to fill the market where there is no conservative journalism for us to sort of provide that.
Yeah.
And people want to support that. So we have very many causes that people contribute to, and it's always a pleasure dealing with them and thank them for their donations.
All right, let's just jump into the numbers because I bet a lot of people want to see it. Let's start with the gifts that we give to third parties. Now, most of our crowdfunding is to keep the Rebel going, and we say that. It's for apps. It's for when we sent Sheila Gunn-Reid to Morocco to cover the UN conference. It's for security. It's for our public legal fights against bullies. But we actually do, well, in the last year, almost $1 million of fundraising for third-party charities. You've got some printouts here. We'll show them on the screen. Tell me about how we do crowdfunding for bona fide charities. I'm not talking about for our company. Our company's not a charity. How do we raise funds for, say, Professor Jordan Peterson's research, or for Rebuild Fort Mac, or for Save the Christians, the Iraqi genocide fund? Tell me how we do that.
Yeah, I mean, first off, those are some of the causes that I'm most passionate about and most happy that we do, is all these very charitable causes that we take. We use a crowdfunding site, an external one, just so everything is very above the board and people can see everything that comes in, called Indiegogo, and sometimes we use an affiliate of Indiegogo called Generosity. And we launch our campaigns through there and we ask people to donate. So Professor Peterson was an example of one where he was denied funding for the first time in his career. We suspect for sort of dubious causes. And we said, you know what, no problem, we're going to fund your research, Professor Peterson.
That was censorship of him. It was so obvious. So we raised, we've got the stats here, $195,000 and $195,230. Now, Indiegogo or Generosity.com, they take a very small handling fee. That's themselves. But we don't take any funds whatsoever from those third-party charity drives, do we?
No, not at all. Absolutely. Indiegogo takes a small sort of fee for processing, just like everyone else, and they take a little cut for themselves. Generosity is great, and they just do the processing fee, but you have to do it in US dollars, so sometimes we've gone with Indiegogo, we're Canadian, anyhow. So
what's the grand total that we've raised between the Spear Kids Fund, which I have to say is my favorite, Professor Peterson, that was good, but it's sort of obscure. I mean, a professor's research, not everyone says, yeah, that's a charity for me, but a lot of people loved it because they love him. He's so courageous. Rebuild Fort Mac, I mean, it's been more than a year now, but that was a very special one for me.
Sure, Premier Notley.
Yeah, Premier Notley. Yeah. If Rachel Notley herself is going to say thank you to me, you know she didn't do that easily. And then we have one that's still ongoing now, SaveTheChristians.com. Just tell me the top line. How much is the total number of dollars that Rebel viewers have raised that we have given to third-party charities?
Sure. I'm very proud to say $853,778 so far.
So that's the charity stuff. Most of what we do here at the Rebel is not charitable. I mean, it's business, it's politics, it's journalism. The charity stuff we have on those external sites, maximum transparency, 100% of the net proceeds goes to the bona fide charities. But what we do here, people love it because they don't get it anywhere else. When we, for example, I remember when I flew to interview Geert Wilders, the Dutch politician, we crowdfunded the ticket, the plane tickets. We crowdfunded the tickets for Sheila to go to the UN Global Warming Convention. So we do that through crowdfunding. I call those business expenses. Some people might love them like a charity. They're not charity, but let's just end the suspense. Tell me, how much has the Rebel, in the last fiscal year of our company, crowdfunded in total for everything, whether it was building the new app, building equipment, even office furniture, hiring students, stuff that's not outward charity, like inward businessy stuff. Give me the total number.
Sure.
I'm bragging now. We're bragging now.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Should we do a drum roll?
Yeah.
$1,543,162.13.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And every single one of those people did it voluntarily. No one has to donate to the Rebel. Tell me why. I mean, you talk to hundreds, you talk to thousands of people over the course of time. What is the number one reason that someone would voluntarily give money to watch a video that they could get for free? Like when I went to interview Geert Wilders, just for that one example, that video was for free on the internet. So no one had to give money. But we had probably 200 people chip in to cover that trip. I don't remember exactly. Why would someone pay for that trip if they could watch it for free?
I mean, it's a great question. And my job here, my official title is community and campaign manager, so I talk to these people pretty often. It's a large part of my job is knowing that, and the answer is very simple, that they support our journalistic mission. Our mission at The Rebel is to show the other side of the story, is to report on the things that the mainstream media refuses to. And we're doing that, and people realize that without us, there wouldn't be opposition to so many different things. M103, carbon tax, none of those issues would be popular because everyone else, especially in Canada, they're left-wing, they're the mainstream media, and people realize that when the Sun News Network died, there needed to be someone to tell that other side of the story, and that's us, and people want to support our mission.
Yeah. Well, I remember the email I wrote announcing that I was going to talk to Geert Wilders, and I said the CBC would either ignore him, or if they interviewed him, it would be an attack, a gotcha. And I think everyone knew that was true. And everyone wanted to say, well, can we have a real interview with Geert Wilders so we actually learn what he has to say rather than just how bad the CBC hates him? Now, let's do one more thing. Let's go through the apportioning of the expenses. So we raised $1.54 million in the last fiscal year of the company for crowdfunding internally. That's different from the outward charity stuff. Give us a breakdown of some of the line items there. Obviously, by far, the biggest expense we have here is journalists. Web editors, producers, video editors, student journalists. We hired some right out of school. That's so much fun. But also other journalists too, and travel. Give me some of the other expenses.
Sure, I mean, some of the expenses, so that large one that we're talking about is over $1.2 million. But then there's also just sort of our studio build, that was $20,000.
In the last fiscal year. I mean, we've had other, like I remember when we started The Rebel, but this is for the last 12 months. Keep going.
Sure, we also have the lawyers. Unfortunately, that's a large part of this business now.
Well, but those are lawyers for our campaigns. Like, for example, Justice for Chelsea in the UK. A lot of lawyers there. In Canada, I mean, I remember, this is probably in an earlier fiscal year, we hired lawyers for the Christian pastor in downtown Toronto that the police charged him for busking. Hiring lawyers is something we do so often, but it's because our side often doesn't have the free ACLU lawyers to fight for them. So we've hired, for example,
John Carpe.
John Carpe, one of my favorite freedom lawyers. Keep going. Give us one more example.
I mean,
people can look at these. These are all on our website at therebel.media/trust. But give us one more example.
Sure. I mean, that was $165,000 spent. But another example of something that we've done is just on equipment, for example. We've had to spend over $20,000 in the past year.
Well, there you go. I have to tell you, I mean, we started this company 2.5 years ago, and it's a private company, not a dime of government money. No individual donor to the company greater than 2%. What's the average gift? You probably know that. It's about $68? Or tell me if I'm...
It's a bit higher than that. It's around $78 right now.
$78, yeah. Well, there you go. The average donor, less than $100. I guess I haven't checked in a while. $78. That's who our people are. And I guess there was no reason to keep this private other than the company's not a public company. But when these critics said, where's the money, where's the money, and they were piling on, I thought, why won't I just disclose this? By the way, our accounting firm is one of the most reputable accounting firms in Canada. It's not some mom and pop shop, it's Zeifmans and Company, reputable firm, very large independent firm. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not shy about this. I'm extremely proud of it. And I mean, I don't want to brag about it because it's not me, it's our people. But, I mean, people who watch the show all the time, they know this because we're always talking about it. Sometimes we have pictures of the checks that we hand. For example, I was just talking to Tommy Robinson, and in a couple of weeks he's going to go hand a check on the Thank Knox campaign for veterans. So, I mean, sometimes we love to deliver checks. Sometimes we just do it. I have to tell you, it's one of my favorite parts about The Rebel. Last word to you, Eitan.
Yeah, I mean, it's really one of my favorite things that we do too, to show people that, hey, this is a problem, here's what we're going to do about it, and then to deliver. What a great thing to show, and we can only thank our audience for their generous support on that. You
know, there's one more thing I want to answer, because this was in the criticism video that these disgruntled former staffers made. It's just a very small point. And I just know you can nail it because they had no clue. They were trading in gossip. And I know our supporters don't believe it, but I just want you to nail it. They said that in the case of the trip we did to Israel, Lauren Southern allegedly refused to fundraise for the trip because we had already raised more than enough money. Now, by the way, our pay it forward terms of service means if we raise more than we need to for a particular campaign, we either pay the overhead or pay for similar campaigns. That's on the internal stuff. But give us the facts. When you looked into our database and the day that Lauren Southern was fired, according to these lads in the UK, they claimed we had already fundraised for the trip. Why don't you just show that, and I want you to show on the screen the stats. Sure. How much did we raise, actually?
So it was March 2nd when Lauren left the Rebel, and at that point in time, we had only raised just over $2,000 for Rebel Israel. I think it was $2,160.08.
Yeah.
And Kaylin made this ridiculous claim that we had already fundraised the entire Israel trip, and Lauren couldn't stand the idea of having to fundraise for it, so she refused and then was fired. And like, I'm not involved in those sort of HR things, but I know that it's my job to raise money. And when I heard that, I thought, that's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Kaylin obviously doesn't know our accounting.
Yeah.
You know, that trip, I think we said it was $5,000 per reporter. We sent 4 people and 2 cameramen,
yeah.
So that's $30,000. I understand our expenses actually even exceeded that. You know, that day we had $2,000. It's just a lie.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can't answer every single gossipy rumor out there, but what we can do is put these expenses and revenues on the website. Mm-hmm. We are. Our accounting firm is one of the most reputable accounting firms in the country, but really it comes down to people can see what we do every day. They can see us talk to the lawyers we hire to fight for Chelsea, to fight for John Fletcher. They can see when Gareth Knox gets fitted for his fancy wheelchair. In Canada, they can see when we fly our team somewhere, whether it was, you know, flying Lauren Southern herself to the Milwaukee riots.
Sure.
I mean, pretty quickly, if you're in a campaign and you don't see the billboards, how many billboards have we done? Kathleen Wynne billboard, we did.
What a billboard.
You know, we did so many billboards, It's unbelievable. So, I mean, it's sort of ridiculous to say, where's it go? People can see, but now they can see the expenses. 810, appreciate you coming forward and disclosing these numbers. I'm very proud of it. Do you have anything else to say to Rebel viewers who might have felt wobbled by the last week? Well, hey, you're running our campaign, standwiththerebel.com. Let's see how that does.
Yeah, I mean, you know, make sure to sign up at standwiththerebel.com. If you want to see us live, it's all based on you guys, and I think we're going to exceed expectations and come back stronger than ever.
I think so. I think the media party counts us out too early. A-Town Gilboard, thank you for your help. Thanks for disclosing something that I don't think any other media company in Canada discloses. CBC, which is owned by taxpayers, is not this candid with their accounting. I don't know any other private company that would, but we're different. We live on the trust of our viewers, and I think that trust is strong. Thanks for being an important part of that.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, well, no, you're a great part of the team. All right, after this short break, I'll give you my final thoughts on what's been a rough week, but hopefully a bright future. Stay with us. There you have it. I told you the mistakes we made, my plan to fix them. I showed you Hannah Vanderkoy, who's been the second in command at the Rebel. She's been the managing producer. We showed you our plans, the kind of stories we're going to cover, the kind of reporters we're going to cover, and what a managing editor does. I think we've needed that. We've talked to A-Tan Gilboard. You probably get his emails every week talking about this campaign, that campaign. He took us through our accounts. I think he was a little bit nervous. He's not used to being on TV. I am so proud that we put all our details online. And by the way, we have a serious accounting firm, Zeifman & Company, one of the largest independent accounting firms in the country. We take your donations extremely seriously. The ones that are for charities, we give 100% of the net proceeds to the actual charity. We don't touch them. That's why we put them on external sites like Indiegogo or Generosity. And internally, as you know, we keep the money in trust for those campaigns or the overhead or projects like them. That's how we run things, and I'm thrilled to put them online for you to look through. That's what we're doing here. I don't want to die. If you think that you're done with the Rebel, that's fine, and I'm sorry about that, and if it's because of my errors, well, I apologize for that. But if you're with me, if you think we have a lot more to do here at the Rebel, if Canada and frankly the world needs a lot more of the Rebel, not less, and if you think we should ignore the 30 screaming voices that are almost completely in the media and the others just being political opportunists, if you think so, then I need you to show it to me, and frankly I need you to give a morale boost to the staff. Go to standwiththerebel.com. I want to show my team here that at least 30,000 people are willing to say, yeah, I want you guys to live. I think if you do that, I will be able to get the team going to rebuild with this new plan. I need it. Our team needs it. We have the plan. We need to know you're with us. Go to standwiththerebel.com. Thank you for your support. Folks, that's it for today. On behalf of all of us here at the Rebel, for tonight and as long as my body will hold up until I'm dead, good night and keep fighting for freedom.